mercy and grace upon my life. Every day, na, na, na.
What are we aiming to achieve with this? What are we planning to do? What is the goal for this?
Yeah, so really it is just to, I mean, first what you were just saying, Beauty, just being able to encourage each other. That is such a brilliant blessing that we get to come here, meet up and encourage each other, but also just praying that we'll be able to reach out and encourage some Christians. I mean, that in some churches, and I've felt this way before, and it's sometimes comes from ourselves, sometimes comes from our environment, but the whole idea that, oh, I'm a rubbish Christian and everybody else has got it together. Like, we're here to kind of, I guess, banish some of those ideas, some of those thoughts, and say, look, we don't have it together. We're not experts. We're here to just, encourage everybody and be able to just show that this is like real life. This is what we're going through.
Yeah. And I just like the point that, Sarah said, we can come across like we've got it all together. But I think for me, one scripture that strikes for me is our strength is made perfect. His strength is made perfect in our weakness. And so it's okay. For me, I just feel like it's just not staying there. It's okay to identify that this is my weak point. This is the place that I want to be out. And I think pointing that out will help you to sort of work on it, if I'm making sense. And so, that scripture, just when you say that scripture hit me, his strength is made perfect in our weakness. And so, what about you? What would you think?
I think that through all the changes that's going on in the last years, through all the lockdowns and all the churches being closed, I think that there's so many people who before all of this haven't had much contact with the church. And when someone hasn't had much contact with the church and all they've maybe had in terms of contact with Christians is, meeting someone face to face. And sometimes, when you do meet someone who's a Christian and you're a non-Christian, they might seem a bit radical or like crazy or so different from what you know. And so like church becomes this kind of like unknown. And for me, having like YouTube and having radio station is like another medium that's not scary. People already know YouTube. They already like listen to radio. It's not a completely new medium for them. They're not coming into an environment that's surrounded by lots of people who are the same and you're like the one different person. So you're coming in and you're watching YouTube or you're listening to the radio in the comfort of your own home, and then you're meeting people who are being real, being honest, and they're not some weirdo Christian, do you know what I mean? That they can get to know us.
It's a lot more accessible, isn't it?
100%.
I know, even for me, I grew up in a Christian home for 16 years I went to church, and yet still after I took those 3-4 years out, church suddenly became super foreign to me. So even just to make that step to go into a church building was massive, because I don't know, what these people were going to be like. I didn't know, if everybody's going to look down on me, or think, oh, we've not seen you around. So, obviously that wasn't the case for me. I had a completely different experience. But having this space where we can just be open and honest and make church, and not just church, make God accessible to the other people
in a non-threatening way, just very comfortable, easy, laid back, because we're cool.
Absolutely. I mean, Naomi, you've got your pink hair out, loving it.
So no, it is that is the goal. That is the goal, because I just feel like we live in a society where people just judge you, and sometimes even in the church, you can't be yourself. You can't actually grow as a Christian because you're so so concerned about what other Christians will say. And I think
The
that
crazy thing about that
Yeah.
though is in those churches, every single person sitting in those churches will be thinking that exact same thing. They'll be thinking, oh no, I'm not good enough. Like this person sitting next to me, they've got their life together. They
Yeah.
are a much better Christian than me. We're not called to be good Christians. We're just called to be children of God. That's all we're called to be. All we're called to be is people who, are able to accept God's love and to follow his lead. We're not meant to be leaders.
that's striking. Accept God's love, and that's what reflecting love is about. Obviously, to reflect God's love, but accept God's love, because I think it's very important. I think, when you think about it, for God so loved the world, so he gave his only begotten Son for us, all for us. He done all of that for us. We must be very special, right? We must be very, very special,
so good.
And accepting that love sometimes can be hard, especially when you've come from a place where you haven't really seen love, or you've gone through a bit of hardship. It's really hard accepting that love, but when you think about it, it's not that hard as well, because he just said, I'm just here to love you. He loves us first, and then we love him. We don't even know how to love until we take his love and receive his love, right? And so, this is amazing. So what are your final words about that? What you want to say?